Good day, everyone. I am Jean and Villamore. Our topic is all about museum in the Philippine history. But before we start, we have here our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, students are able to identify major museums that showcase Philippine history. Second, to explain the role of museums in preserving Filipino heritage. Next, to understand how museums help educate the public about Philippine history. Museums preserve and display important artifacts, artworks, and documents related to the Philippine history. They help people understand the country's past through real and visual evidence. The word museum comes from the Greek word mouseion. In ancient Greece, a mouseion was known as the seat of the Muses, who were goddesses of art, science, and learning. Because of this, a mouseion was not just a place to keep objects, but a space for thinking, studying, and sharing ideas. It was often used by philosophers and scholars as a place of learning and reflection. This is why modern museums are seen places where people learn, think, appreciate knowledge, history, and culture. Museums keep and take care of important artifacts, artworks, and documents that are connected to Philippine history. These objects are protected so they can last for a long time and be seen by future generations. By displaying real items like old paintings, tools, and historical records, museums help people better understand what life was like in the past. Seeing this real and visual evidence makes Philippine history easier to understand and more meaningful to learners. The University of Santo Tomas Museum, considered as the oldest existing museum in the Philippines, was formally established in 1869 to comply with the 1865 Reglamento de Segunda Enseñanza that required all first-class colleges to have a Museo de Historia Natural. The University of Santo Tomas Museum, officially called the UST Museum of Arts and Sciences, is the oldest existing museum in the Philippines, established in 1869. It is located inside the main building of the University of Santo Tomas in Sampaloc, Manila. The museum was originally created to support science education and later expanded its collections over time. Today, it houses important artworks by famous Filipino artists, natural history specimens, religious images, coins and medals, and cultural artifacts. The UST Museum helps preserve Philippine heritage and serves as an educational place for students and the public to learn about history, art, and science.
Good day, everyone. Today, I will be presenting two important museums in the Philippines, the National Museum and the Ayala Museum. Let me start with the National Museum of the Philippines. The National Museum is the main institution responsible for preserving, protecting the country's cultural and historical heritage. It houses various collections such as archaeological artifacts, historical documents, artworks, and natural history specimens. These collections show how Filipino culture developed the pre-colonial period through the time of colonization and up to modern era. The museum is composed of several buildings including the National Museum of Fine Arts, which features famous Filipino artworks. Next is the National Museum of Anthropology, which focuses on the culture and traditions of different Filipino groups, and the National Museum of Natural History, which showcases the country's rich biodiversity. Through these exhibits, visitors can better understand the history, identity, and achievements of Filipino people. Next is the Ayala Museum. The Ayala Museum focuses on Philippine history, art, and culture, but it presents them in a modern and interactive way. It is well known for its detailed dioramas that show important historical events and scenes from Philippine history. These dioramas help visitors easily visualize how Filipino lived in the past and how major events shaped the nation. Aside from dioramas, the Ayala Museum also highlights the role of Filipinos in nation building through its exhibits on art, culture, and economic history. The museum aims to make learning history more engaging, especially for students and young people. Overall, the Ayala Museum helps promote appreciation of the Philippine heritage in an interesting and meaningful way. In conclusion, both museums play an important role in preserving and promoting the Philippine history and culture. They help Filipinos understand their past and inspire pride in the nation. That's all.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Rosary Vallejos. So I'll be discussing about the Museo ni Rizal and Museo ng Katipunan and also their important in the Philippine history. So first we have the Museo ni Rizal. So the Museo ni Rizal is also called as Rizal Shrine. So it is a museum that dedicated to the life and work of Dr. Jose Rizal. The shrine is housed in a historic building that displays Rizal's personal belongings. So, mo ni si Joy katong mga furniture, clothing, and everyday items like kanang ijang mga gipang gamit like desk and writing tools. And also, ijang mga manuscript. So, mo tong ijang mga original copies of his famous works like katong No Limit ang Here, katong El Filibusterismo, and others, and various historical items related to his era. So inside the museum, so exhibit explain how Rizal's influenced Philippine nationalisms and inspired the fight for reform and independence. The displays includes artifacts that give insight into his personal life, writings, and impact of his ideas on the country's history. So, ang Rizal Shrine, so mo ni si Jai, lugar where we learn about Rizal's story and his important role in the Philippine history. So we have the Museo ng Katipunan. So the museum is all about preserving the history of the Katipunan movement, which was a secret society that sparked the Philippine revolutions against the Spanish rules. So inside the museum, so you'll find displays of original documents, weapons, and symbols used during the revolution. So these artifacts give us a glimpse of how the Katipuneros fought for independence and what their struggles was like. So the museum also highlights the bigger picture, the fight for freedom from Spanish colonization, and how the Katipunan's efforts paved the way for the Philippine independence. The Museo ng Katipunan is a place where we can learn about the revolution's history, see the real revolutionary items, and understand the quest for independence. The importance of museums in the Philippine history. So the first is preserve cultural and historical artifacts. So they protect the physical objects that represent our heritage, keeping them safe for future generations to study and appreciate. Second is educate students and the public about the past. So museum serves a learning hubs where both students and everyday folks can discover the events, traditions, and people that shape the Philippines. Promote national identity and pride. So by showcasing our unique history and achievements, so museums help foster a sense of unity and pride in our national identity. Then last is physically preserve artifacts, documents, and cultural heritage. They provide tangible links to the past, turning historical documents and items into living stories that bring history to life for visitors. Understanding these functions shows why museums are important in keeping Philippine history alive and relevant. And that's all for my part, and I'll give it to the next reporter. Thank you.